Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, James Anderson, and I've got RotoWire's resident relief pitching expert, Ryan Roof, with me today. We're going to be talking about Ryan's closer rankings, which just went up on rotowire.com, rotowire.com/pod for a free trial, no credit card required if you want to check out Ryan's relief pitcher rankings, closer encounters article that he's got up on the site. Ryan, great to have you. Happy to talk closers with you today. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. It's been a long time. Thanks for having me on. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so I'm excited to get back on the mic, talk some baseball.
Absolutely. Really pumped and waited as long as I felt like we could in the off season. I've been wanting to talk with you for a while, but wanted some of those relievers to sign. Obviously, they haven't all signed. We'll talk about the guys who are still free agents as we go here, but I want to start at the very top of your closer rankings. You kind of have a tier of four guys up here. We'll start with Josh Hader with the Astros. Obviously, Ryan Pressly no longer there. Brian Abreu would seem to, have a clear next man up role here. But any concerns at all with Hader? Is he just about as safe as it gets at the top?
Yeah, I think he's probably the safest as it gets for me. That's why I have him ranked number one. I think the usage rules he had with Milwaukee are kind of, in San Diego, are kind of long gone. He kind of lifted those last year after signing the long-term deal with Houston. So career high in appearances last season. He's pitching multi-inning games now. 100 plus strikeouts seem like a lock. Very little competition for the role. So I think, he's my clear number one for me. I think he's about as safe as it gets.
And then you've got Devin Williams, the new Yankees closer after him. For what it's worth, I do have recent auction values for these players. So Josh Hader, $21 is his average auction value through 5 NFBC auctions. Devin Williams, $1 cheaper at $20 through those 5 auctions. Another guy with a kind of a clear next man up in Luke Weaver, but any reasons to be worried about Devin Williams with his new team?
No, I mean, the only thing I would worry about is, potential back issues resurfacing, but, he proved he was pretty healthy once he returned last season for Milwaukee. He was just as dominant as ever. ERA under 2 for the 3rd consecutive year. Whip is always good and got the high walk rate, but he just limits, the amount of contact he gives up. So, he could make an argument that he could be a number one closer off the board. I'd be fine with that. I would, if I already had Hader, I would definitely take Williams confidently as my closer one. If I wanted to diversify a little bit there, but yeah, I think Williams is awesome too.
And then your third closer in that first tier is the closer with the highest average auction value, and that's Emmanuel Clase with the Guardians, $22. I think if it weren't for his postseason just kind of wearing down struggles, I think thered be really no argument for him to be like at the top or near the top. Do you have any concerns about him sort of wearing down in the postseason at all?
Yeah, so I'm a Guardians fan. I live in Cleveland, so I watched those games pretty closely, and it's definitely concerning. He gave up more runs in the postseason than he did all of the 2024 regular season. When he's off, he's off. So it was definitely concerning. I did, when the Guardians signed Paul Sewald, I kind of took it as this is just kind of a smart move by a smart organization, just in case they elect to trade Clase. They have someone with closing experience they could slot in there pretty easily. Cade Smith is awesome too. He was pretty much their best reliever aside from Clase last year. So they have options if they do turn away from Clase at some point, mainly due to a trade. I think if a trade does come to fruition, he would certainly close wherever he goes. But in terms of skills, just in terms of strikeouts, he's a little bit below Hader and Williams for me. I do have Clase projected for the most saves in 2025, 41. So, yeah, I mean, I think, he would be the clear number one if, he didn't struggle in the postseason. But, small concerns, but, it is a blip on his resume there.
Yeah, you mentioned Cade Smith, definitely one of the best setup men out there. And Andrew Walters is one of the best relief pitching prospects out there, but I barely put him on the top 400 this last time around just because he's maybe at best third in line, maybe fourth or fifth in line. So potential future closer in Walters, but not anytime soon, I wouldn't think. And then we'll move to the final reliever in your first tier, Raisel Iglesias with Atlanta, AAV of $18 for Iglesias. So he is the cheapest of these four in your top tier here. But I'm with you. I view Iglesias as maybe, I think to me, just if we're ranking them and just in terms of safety, I think Iglesias is right there with Hader as the safest options if you're just looking for 30 saves.
Yeah, I mean, he's consistently ranked in the top 5 closers every year. He's so consistent, just from a performance standpoint. I mean, ratios have been on point, for the last 5, 6 years, and 8 years, 10 years, however long it's been. And certainly got the experience, 224 career saves. I just think, Atlanta's primed to perform better next season than they did last year, which could potentially result in more saves for Iglesias. I have him projected for the second most saves in 2025 behind Clase with 38. So that would be a career high for Iglesias. But I think, Atlanta's poised to do much better than last year.
Yeah, and Joe Jimenez is going to miss probably the first half of the season, recovering from knee surgery. So, I guess the next man up there would be Pierce Johnson, but it's Iglesias' game there in that bullpen. So then,
only thing to note with Iglesias is he is a free agent at the end of the season. So if Atlanta does fall out of playoff race at some point, he could be moved, which may impact his role as it did when he moved from the Angels to the Braves a few years ago. So just something to keep in mind, but I'm not really too concerned about that.
So then tier 2, you got another 4 relievers in the second tier, starting with Edwin Diaz, $21 AAV for him. Obviously had some bumps in the road last year. He's shown that he's got as high a ceiling as any of these relievers. What do you view as sort of the risk? Is there elevated risk with Diaz just due to those issues that he went through in the middle of last year?
Yeah, I think the risk with Diaz is just the save opportunities he's going to get with the Mets. If you look at their just overall percentage of saves of their team wins in the past several years, it's 43.8% last year, 45% the year before, 40% in 2022. So league average was about 50, a little over 50%. Team was recording a save last year, and they've consistently fallen under that mark. So that's why, I have Diaz projected for only 30 saves. Could he blow that out of the water? Sure. Skills are definitely, enticing, but I think that's where, in comparison to the guys we talked about, I expect him to fall a little bit short in the saves category relative to Clase and Iglesias and the other guys.
Who do you think would finish second on the team in saves, or maybe be your pick as next man up there? Because it is kind of a deep bullpen.
I think actually it would be Clay Holmes for me. I know he's projected to enter the rotation and work as a starter, but we saw what happened with AJ Puck last year. He was, with the Marlins, he was supposed to be, he started out in the starting rotation. They quickly gave up on that, and he just returned to a relief role where he was much better. So if it's not working out in the rotation for Holmes, I could see him shifting back to the bullpen pretty easily, and he would very clearly be the next man up for me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. If it's not going well for Holmes in the rotation, he would certainly be the guy. Okay, athletics. Mason Miller in your second tier here, also a $21 AAV, same as Diaz. same as Hader. I think it's a blessing for fantasy that he's not getting stretched out because I think it's a good move by the Athletics to just go with arguably the best reliever on the planet and not tempt that injury fate with moving him to the rotation. So I guess like people might say Miller should be even higher than this. You've got him 6th. Did you consider moving him higher? Are you still viewing him as a guy with some injury risk?
Yeah, I'd still view him with a bit of injury risk. I mean, the durability issues were a major concern entering last season. I don't think we can just completely forget about those, coming into this year. So you could make an argument he could be the top closer in the league. I mean, he's just that good. So lead qualified relievers, 33.3% K minus walk percentage. So, there's not really much more to say. He's awesome. I would be thrilled to have him as my closer 1. But, when it comes to ranking these guys, you kind of have to be, be realistic. As much as I want to rank Mason Miller number 1, it's just, I can't ignore the durability concerns. And it's just there. I mean, I'd still be thrilled with them, but I think the team was pretty savvy bringing Jose Leclerc in to kind of back him up in case, injury issues do pop up. They have someone with experience that they can turn to in that bullpen.
And the next guy in your second tier, Ryan Helsley with the Cardinals, a good example of, maybe the upside if you do roll the dice with one of these premium closers that has the durability risk attached. Helsley was at a discount last year for injury-related reasons and was absolutely dominant. $19 AAV for him. Do you think the durability risk is still behind him, or is that part of why he's down here at 7th for you?
Yeah, that's the reason he's down here for me. I mean, it's the same grouping: Miller, Helsley, Felix Bautista, and the same kind of grouping. View them all similarly. Miller, I think, would have the most upside. Helsley was certainly amazing last year. Trade candidate, so he could potentially pitch in a different role depending on where he goes. If he's got a more established closer in front of him, if a trade comes to fruition, he could serve in just the highest leverage moments, which may not be the 9th inning. So, but yeah, it's that's the reason Helsley's kind of here. And in terms of the auction, average auction value, I think that's probably a price I would avoid at $19 relative to taking the shot on Miller or Bautista.
Yeah, you mentioned Bautista up next here, the last guy in that tier, $17 AAV for him. Probably comes with the most risk of any of the guys we talked about because we haven't seen him return from Tommy John surgery. It's just kind of something we're banking on. Sir Anthony Dominguez is still there. Andrew Kittredge, also a potential next man up. So what do you think about that $17 price on Bautista? Are you willing to roll the dice on him returning successfully from TJ?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I know they said last year, towards the end of last season, that they weren't going to, rush him back for the playoffs or anything. But I think, there was a chance he could have. So I think, with the whole off season and spring training to go, I think there's certainly time for him to kind of get back into the swing of things. And he was just so dominant, the year prior to his surgery. Hard to ignore just how dominant he was. And in terms of the backup options, I know Dominguez kind of stepped up last year, but I don't think the O's want to give him a lot of save opportunities. In fact, I think, they might actually lean Kittredge as kind of the next man up, just for, better skills. But yeah, I've drafted Bautista a few times already. I took him in our too early meatball draft last August, and I've taken him again since then as my closer. So I'm fairly confident in him returning to form.
All right, now things get real interesting here because we've got Kirby Yates of the Dodgers leading off tier 3. Yates, AAV, not that relevant since I think at least 4 of those happened before he signed with the Dodgers, but $10 AAV for Yates. Then you got Tanner Scott, obviously signed with the Dodgers this offseason as well. He had an $8 AAV before signing. You had Michael Kopech, who did have the highest AAV on the team, and he's out indefinitely with an injury. I would strongly recommend not drafting Michael Kopech based on the injury. And then, Evan Phillips still had a $3 AAV before these guys signed. So a loaded bullpen here, and that's not even to mention Blake Trinan. I think Alex Vesia got bought probably for that opening series. But yeah, it's just an absolutely stacked bullpen. You've got Yates at 9th, and then you've got Tanner Scott down at 31st. So you want to talk a little bit about just sort of how you envision that playing out there?
Yeah, I think, both relievers are really awesome. Both high strikeout rates, high walk rates as well. When it comes to kind of taking a stance on either one, I'm leaning Yates. I projected him for 31 saves, 70% team save share, which is risky because the Dodgers have used 10 plus relievers for saves in each of the past 4 seasons. But, Dave Roberts has used a primary closer before. So I would not be shocked if he does the same in 2025, kind of leaning either Yates or Scott. I just think Yates, he's really tough on left-handed hitters, held them to a 081 batting average last year. Tough on righties too, and I think he's just got more experience than Scott in the role. If you consider Tanner Scott's, most of his career saves came with Miami, where he was very clearly the top reliever in that pen. He might be the top reliever in the Dodgers bullpen too, or at least one of the top 2 or 3. But I'm just leaning Yates right now. I think, Yates serving the 9th inning would give Roberts more flexibility to use Scott, anywhere in the 6th to 8th innings, depending on matchups, along with Phillips, Trinan, Vesia, Kopech when he's healthy. So it's just stacked. I'm taking the stance on Yates. I wouldn't be surprised if Scott approached 20 saves. But I just think my lean is Yates right now, at least right now. That could change by the next update, but right now it's Yates.
Yeah, and I honestly agree completely with you have them for 70% of their saves. I buy that. You've got Scott for 10% of their saves. I might take the over on 10% of the saves for Scott.
Yeah,
but
I can definitely be light on that there with that projection. I think in the next rankings update, I'll probably update that. But when somebody's got a 70% team save share and there's a manager who uses a lot of relievers for saves, there's really not that many left,
right?
To go around. So I'll
yeah,
probably adjust a little bit there.
And it is a new, it's they haven't had a bullpen like this recently, where they're bringing in, they've got 5 guys on this team with closing experience, or just a little bit of closing experience at least. And so they're definitely going to be willing to spread the saves around a little bit. But with a guy like Kirby Yates, with all the closing experience he has, 38 years old, 1-year deal, just looking at him and looking at Scott, Yates just seems like the guy where it's 50, 55 innings, bunch of saves, and then Tanner Scott more like 70 innings with a bunch of strikeouts and 10 saves, something like that. That's kind of how I see it playing out.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So loaded bullpen there for the Dodgers. We'll move down to Ryan Walker and the Giants, your 10th ranked closer. You've got Walker projected for 25 saves. I know there is a lot of people kind of buying the dip on Camilo Doval. And that makes sense to me. Just it is kind of a natural regression buy on Duvall, but I also think Walker is legitimately really good. So do you kind of envision him holding that job all year?
I think so. The majority of the year, I do want some Duvall in my drafts, just in case. There was a long period there where he was a pretty reliable closer for the Giants, and vied for the league lead in saves at one point. So I don't want to completely dismiss Duvall. I do have him projected for double-digit saves. But Walker was just so good last year. Only reliever in baseball with double-digit wins and saves. Nearly got to 100 strikeouts, and was just the most trusted reliever in that pen. So I think when it comes to, closing out games, and Duvall was just consistently blowing things up, whip was just ballooned to 1.6, I think 1.5. You can't really count on that in the ninth inning. So I am right now, I'm really liking Walker where I have him. I would love to see 30 plus saves, but I'm just I think I projected him for 25, which I think is pretty reasonable. I think that's where most projection systems kind of have him. But I would not be surprised to see Duvall kind of work his way back into that role at some point if he's pitching much better.
Yeah, absolutely. We're in agreement on this next guy. You've got David Bednar, the Pirates, at 11 on your closer rankings. He has a $9 AAV. I've ended up with Bednar, I think, as a closer 1 and as a closer 2. Obviously was great prior to last season. Last year, a lot of stuff went wrong for Bednar, but looking at the depth chart, it seems like it's clearly still his ninth inning.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think they kind of rushed him back last year. He dealt with a lat injury during spring training, kind of returned too quickly, and, perhaps affected his delivery, his confidence, his control, just affected his results in general, which led to an oblique strain kind of midseason. And I don't think there was really enough time for him to kind of regain that role. So I'm kind of just ignoring last year just because of the injuries. If he's healthy, spring training and showing he's healthy, I think it's very clearly his job. GM has already said, he'll get a chance to reclaim the role, which I think means he wants him in that role. So, I've got him for 30 plus saves. If that auction price is single digits, I'd be loving that. So. Definitely a target of mine in drafts. And unless they sign one of the free agent closers that are out there, I think I'd be pretty confident in Bednar as my closer 1.
Yeah, absolutely. A lower end closer 1, but I would not be bummed if he's my closer 1. I think that's workable for sure.
Yep.
Royals, Lucas Erceg here, also in this third tier for you. Erceg has a $14 AAV, so the market definitely trusting him as the Royals closer. He's shown a very high ceiling. Does not have a ton of track record in the role, though.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty confident in him and his skills that he showed. Picked up 11 of the Royals' 15 saves after they acquired him. So I think that's, a reasonable, 60 to 70% projected share for next season. So I've got him for 26 saves. James MacArthur, Hunter Harvey could certainly steal a few away from him, but I think he's pretty clearly the most talented arm in that pen right now. So I think I kind of agree with the market right now on Erceg.
Yeah, I agree too. I think appropriately priced, as you put it. Another guy in that tier who just joined a new team and can kind of ease the market on his role, Jeff Hoffman, signing with the Blue Jays and clearly signing to be their closer. He only has a $7 AAV, but that's because those auctions happened before that news. Chad Green, Yimi Garcia, also viable candidates if Hoffman were to struggle. Do you have any concerns about all the just leaking of his medicals and that type of stuff after he signed with the Blue Jays?
Yeah, not a ton. He got a long-term deal from them. I think, if he's in a relief role and he's not starting, because I think that was part of the thing with Hoffman in, a few months ago, was some teams were considering him as a starter. So, that could have been Baltimore or Atlanta looking at him as a starter, perhaps. And, the medicals were kind of more in line with that role as opposed to a relief role. So, there's a little bit of concern, but I think he's a good bet for 60+% of Toronto saves. That said, he does have competition in Jimmy Garcia, who I really like. Chad Green was in the role last year, but I don't really consider him to be a threat to Hoffman or Garcia. It's just Garcia was just so good in his stint with Toronto last year. 24.2 K- walk percentage, top 25 mark among relievers with 30+ innings. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if this becomes more of a split with Hoffman as the season goes on. But Hoffman talked about wanting to close. I think he'll be given every opportunity to do so. And the past couple of years have shown he's just been an excellent reliever. So I think low walk rate, strikeout rate is fine. So I definitely like Hoffman's potential there.
Now the Padres obviously looking to trim payroll. Robert Suarez could be part of that, but as things stand, I think he would certainly be their closer. If the season started today, $12 AAV for Suarez. I think next up would be Jason Adam, who's been phenomenal last 3 years. So I guess do you agree that it's definitely Suarez's job if he's there? But then, are you interested in Adam under the theory that they might move Suarez, and then it would definitely be Adam up next?
Yeah, so a little of both. Actually, Adam made my targets list in my article, and Suarez was my top fade in my article. Reason being is just, if Suarez is there, he is the favorite, obviously. But you can't ignore his history of injuries. He did avoid the IL last season, but dealt with some pretty significant injuries prior to that. Surprisingly, the market is aligned with me. I thought he would be drafted higher given, his success last year. 36 saves, was fourth in the league. 9 wins, was second among relievers. Made the All-Star team, but I think the market kind of is too sharp right now. They kind of realize, this is a 33-year-old, injury history. Trade is possible, which could affect his role. And even if he remains with the Padres, he could get hurt. And then Jason Adam is just so good that, he could challenge for the role just anyway. So I've got Suarez as a fade. He might actually be lower on my next update than he is on my initial rankings list.
Yeah, I think I'm at this point in the rankings, I'm more worried about the trade than the durability aspect. I just think pretty much all the guys we're talking about here come with durability concerns. Whether it's because of how hard they throw or prior injuries, that type of thing. So, it wouldn't be surprising to anyone if Suarez got hurt this year, but it's just, you don't want to get stuck with him as your closer one, and then he gets traded to one of these teams that already has 1 or 2 guys who are clearly ahead of him.
Yep, exactly.
Next up is the Mariners. Andres Munoz, also in this third tier, pretty big third tier here. Munoz AAV is $17, so he's getting quite a bit more respect in the market than you're giving Munoz, who you've got ranked 15th on your closer rankings. What do you want to point out here with Munoz as to why you're a little bit lower?
Yeah, I think it's just the mentioned in my article, kind of describe why I'm a little bit lower on him than the market is because, I'm looking for 30 plus saves for my closer one. Munoz has yet to record more than 22 saves in a season. Team save share last year, despite being healthy all year. I mean, he had a few minor injuries, but team save share was only 65%. So that's with him being healthy. Also, Matt Brash is expected to return to the pen at some point. You mentioned Jackson Kowar, also due back in spring or summer. So I just think, I don't know, for the price and where he's just going ADP wise, I just prefer somebody with more saves, because that's the name of the game, right? It's comes to closers, you need saves, and Munoz is amazing skills wise. His ERA at home and last year was just outstanding. He could approach 100 strikeouts if he stays healthy again all year, but again, durability is a concern, and that's kind of why he's in this group with Suarez, Duran, who we'll talk about next.
Yeah, it is set up, I think, better than it's ever been set up for Munoz to maybe get to like a career high in saves, just because he does he's entering the season with really no healthy competition for those saves. But yeah, I'm with you. I think there is a bit of durability risk with him, and he was frustrating to own even when he was like kind of the clear closer last year. He would go stretches.
He went over a month, I think, without recording one.
Yeah, and
I recall
it was definitely a frustrating situation to sort of navigate in terms of how long do you keep him in the lineup? Do you bench him? And then, of course, when you bench him, he's probably going to get a couple saves that week. So I also do like Troy Taylor, no longer technically a prospect, but someone in that arm that I would keep an eye on for future years, maybe not 2025. Twins, as you mentioned, Jhoan Duran, someone who I just never draft because of what you were talking about with the saves. Duran just doesn't save 30 games ever. And he gets priced like a guy who's going to save 30 games, so I never end up with him. And then throw in the fact that Griffin Jax just was straight up better than him down the stretch last year. Doesn't sound like they're going to be stretching Jax out, although I think that'd be my preference. But like, honestly, I would rather roster Griffin Jax in fantasy than Duran this year. Not even worrying about the price.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think Jax's emergence last year is really kind of why Duran is ranked this low for me. And again, it's just, Munoz, same thing with Munoz. I just don't think Duran gets to 30 saves. Duran or Jax might actually make it a more kind of an even split this year, just because he was so good in that role last year, pitches a ton. And he kind of made the decision to remain in the bullpen. So yeah, I think Jack should be going higher. And I agree about Duran. I just wouldn't pay this price, auction wise or ADP wise.
So I didn't see this one coming, but Ryan Pressly seems like he's a closer again after moving to the Cubs. Kind of throw his AAV and Porter Hodge's AAVs out the window because of the timing of that acquisition. How do you see the saves shaking out there with the Cubs?
Yeah, I don't think Pressly will be like the 100% primary guy. I think Craig Counsell showed last year, he was willing to use many different relievers for saves. I think personnel is part of the reason for that. But and now that he's got Pressly, he might turn to him most often. But Porter Hodge is still there. I think he'll still kind of be in the mix. I've got him projected for 9 saves. Pressly is obviously getting older. He's dealt with some ailments over the years. Strikeout walk rates are plummeting. Fastball velocity is going in the wrong direction. So I'm kind of hopeful. I do like Pressly. I kind of hope he maintains a job all year. Definitely has the most experience in that bullpen, 112 career saves. But yeah, I wouldn't go projecting him for 30 plus saves. I do have him at 24 right now. We'll see if they sign anyone else. If they do sign someone like David Robertson or even Kelly Jansen, Kyle Finnegan, that could eat into that projection a little bit. But right now, he kind of slots in right below kind of those other guys that I have projected for 24 saves.
Yeah, and this Presley going to the Cubs kind of dampens the enthusiasm a little bit I had for Nate Pearson there, maybe taking over that role in season. The Rays, Pete Fairbanks, the last guy in your third tier here. Probably not that much that needs to be said about Fairbanks. We kind of know what he is. Not going to get you 30 saves, but good ratios. Probably not going to get you a ton of innings, but he'll be great when he's out there. Who's your favorite guy behind Fairbanks in the Rays bullpen?
Is it Biggie? Hunter Biggie? Or
Biggie? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. But I have several shares of him already. He's kind of the one I've been speculating on. So just solid in his debut with the team last year. I think there's upside. He saved teams in the minors. So Fairbanks is definitely that guy when he's healthy, but we all know he gets injured every year. So, when he does get injured, I think Biggie is certainly in that mix. Edwin Diaz was pretty solid last year and some eye-popping numbers, but it's Fairbanks' job when he's healthy, and then it's just a timeshare when he's not. And it's take your pick of who kind of emerges from the group behind him.
Yeah, the market has Edwin Uceta as the next guy. $2 AV on him. I also like Mason Montgomery, rookie lefty, just as a late flyer who could get 5 or 6 saves. Angels, yep. Ben Joyce leading off tier 4 here, $8 AV on him. Just, durability risk is through the roof on the hardest throwing arm in the game, but he'll certainly be getting the saves there, I would think, as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, I think so. It's weird. I think with Joyce, the one thing I'd like to see him, improve his strikeout rate. Somebody throwing that fast, you'd expect the K rate to be a little higher, but even when people are making contact against them, it's soft contact, very weak. So, it comes down to durability with Joyce, and that's kind of why he's in that same tier with Fairbanks.
And I like Robert Stevenson as a stash. I've got him on a handful of Draft Champions rosters. He's due back probably around mid-season from Tommy John surgery. So by that point, who knows if Joyce has been healthy or effective, and Stevenson is certainly getting paid like a closer. So I think he could end up with double-digit saves in the second half. Philly, Jordan Romano heads there as the likely closer. He's got a $7 AAV. Obviously, there's injury risk because was he non-tendered by the Jays due to that the elbow issue? So he ends up getting more from the Phillies, $8.5 million on a 1-year deal, than he would have gotten from the Jays in arbitration. But it's also just like a 1-year deal and just a buy low by the Phillies. They seem to be buying low on everyone this offseason. What's your level of confidence with Romano here?
I'm not super confident in him. I do think he'll be part of the, Rob Thompson late inning mix. My favorite is probably from this bullpen is Orion Kerkering. Mm-hmm. I've actually got him just a few spots lower than Romano in my rankings. I just think with Romano's experience, I think this kind of my initial save projection is kind of 50% team save share. And then Kerkering also projected for double-digit saves, 35% share for 14 saves. He's just kind of like their closer of the future. Got good stuff. Clearly his rookie season went really well last year. So definitely expect him to take the next step and get more save, higher leverage opportunities than he got last year.
Yeah, I'd even recommend maybe doing a handcuff with Kerkering and Romano, except that Kerkering's a little too pricey for that. He is going well inside the top 400 on average. So you might not be able to pull that off, but something to consider. With the Reds, Alexis Diaz, $10 AAV. He's probably the trendiest closer to fade, I would say, just because we can all see how bad the control is. But who do you think would be the next man up if Diaz does lose that job?
Yeah, I think there's a couple options, and again, there's a new manager, Cincinnati, Terry Francona, tends to lean towards one guy. Obviously, he had, was blessed with Emmanuel Clase when he was in Cleveland. I think Diaz will certainly get the shot at the start of the season to be the closer, but I just think the skills are not there for that role for him. I think Tony Santillan, Emilio Pagan, Zach Maxwell are guys I would have interest in. And then I don't dismiss the possibility of them even signing someone a little bit more reliable than Diaz, maybe Carlos Estevez or David Robertson, someone of that like. But yeah, I have zero interest in Diaz. I didn't have any interest in him last year, and he got worse. I think last year was a very obvious fade as well, just because coming off the year prior, he had a ton of saves, kind of outperformed the underlying metrics. And now, it's very obvious that he regressed back to kind of what those metrics were telling us to begin with. So, no interest in Diaz. I think he's a pretty easy fade, but I wouldn't be surprised if he, again, still gets 20 plus saves if they don't do anything else with this bullpen. 20 plus saves is certainly within reach, but it won't be on my team.
Next up, we're in agreement on Diaz. This is probably our biggest disagreement. You've got Trevor Megill with the Brewers here in Tier 4. He's got a $15 AAV. So the market is higher on him than you are. I would have him up in that third tier with guys like Walker and Erceg and Hoffman. Fully expect him to get 70% of the saves for the Brewers this year. But you've got him at 40%. So why don't you make the case against Trevor Megill?
Yeah, for me, it's just his durability. Missed time each of 3 of the past 4 seasons. Hasn't pitched more than 46 and a third innings in the season yet. Injuries have been like a variety of things: forearm, oblique, back, concussion. So he's certainly got that durability risk label that I just can't ignore. So definitely talented, somebody that stepped up for the team last year when Devin Williams was out for the first several months. Abner Uribe didn't really work out. Joel Payamps isn't really a closer profile, whereas Megill does have some of those qualities, strikes a lot of guys out. But for me, it's the durability. And also, I do think the Brewers are kind of one of those teams that could still sign somebody, someone like Kenley Jansen, who I think would step into that role over Megill. It's just, for me, it's the durability and the Brewers potentially not being done adding to their pen after losing Devin Williams, trading him, not losing him.
Yeah, I would be really surprised if they signed one of those free agent closers. That's just not the way they operate. They love developing relievers internally. They've basically been doing it for over a decade. So I don't see that happening. I think the durability is kind of the one risk factor there with Megill, and I buy it as a risk factor, but I just think it's not a greater risk than guys like Hoffman, Bednar, Erceg, Suarez, etc.
I think you make a good point on the development. Is they do have Abner Uribe, who's certainly got plenty of upside, strikeout upside. It's just can he throw strikes consistently enough? And then Craig Yoho, another guy who climbed 3 levels last year, so pretty exciting and got some save opportunities in the minors. So those are also threats to McGill's potential role next year. I guess it just depends on whether they can throw strikes or not.
So also in your 4th tier, Justin Martin, or actually no, you had AJ Puck ahead of Justin Martinez, but we got these two Diamondbacks relievers sitting here. Justin Martinez, $6 AAV, AJ Puck, $1 AAV. Martinez, the walks are certainly going to be there. He will show some of the best stuff of any of these guys we're talking about. And then AJ Puck's been a fantastic reliever. So you prefer Puck to Martinez, I think, just slightly.
Yeah, I think it's slightly. I do want shares of both of these guys. I would definitely take a shot at Martinez for $6 or at his ADP. Just because, the skills are so enticing. The splitter, 54% whiff on that pitch last year, held hitters under 100 batting average on that pitch. 100-mile-an-hour sinker, gets the high ground ball rate, 30% K rate. It's just the walks and the traffic he allows. I think at the moment he's, the favorite. As the roster currently stands, he racked up 8 of the team's 13 saves after August 1st. Puck skills are certainly awesome. I just think it's tough to project either of them for 20 plus saves right now because, Arizona was interested in Yates before he signed with the Dodgers. It's still possible they could add someone. So this is kind of just a little bit reserved projection for both. I have them both projected for 10 plus saves. Puck's just shown a little bit better skills over the course of his career, has a little bit more experience, hence the ranking slightly above Martinez. But I just don't think they're done adding to that pen. And but both are certainly very exciting. I definitely want at least a share or two of Martinez and Puck in case they do end up being the guy.
Yeah, Martinez is really a boom or bust closer here because he's got, he could finish. I think he could finish as a top 7-ish closer in like a best case scenario, but also could just not get you anything.
Yep.
Boston. There was a time this offseason where I was loading up on Justin Slayton late in drafts, but we've got Aroldis Chapman there now. Liam Hendriks is kind of the presumed closer by the market, at least $3 AAV. What do you think here? Is this another one where you're leaning with the lefty?
Yeah. There was a time I was loading up on Slayton as well, and I've since stopped loading up as much on him. But yeah, I think Chapman is my favorite out of the options right now. Last year, I mean, we know the walk rate is just going to be there every year, but last season he still produced a 22.3 K minus walk percentage. That was top 25 among relievers. Almost got to 100 strikeouts again. So, I mean, if you can balance the whip and potential ratio risk with, the strikeouts, perhaps a different reliever at the top, even with pairing him with someone like Clase would be really cool. I just think he's primed for 15 plus saves. Hendriks will get some, Slayton will get some, Whitlock will get some probably because he's gotten some before. But I don't think there's a true number one guy here. And with Hendriks, it's tough to project him for a lot of saves. I mean, it'd be such a cool story to see him kind of reclaim closing duties as a primary closer for a team after all he's been through. I'm kind of rooting for that, but I think realistically, I just think, Chapman's just got plenty of experience too in that role. And like you said, Slayton's very appealing. So.
You listed, I should have listed him too, but we did get confirmation that Garrett Whitlock's going to come back as a reliever. So wouldn't expect him to really figure into the saves mix this year, but he's certainly a talented arm they'll have available. The Tigers, we got Jason Foley here at $2. We are into what are we into, tier 5 now at this point, or tier 6 maybe? But you had Tyler Holton, I think, as the top Tigers reliever to go after, but you only have a 25% save share for him. So how do you see this bullpen playing out?
Yeah, right now it's kind of tough because Jason Foley had 28 saves last year, but just didn't pitch in the playoffs. I'm still not sure anything has been announced as to why, whether it was injury or just performance or what. But he was still the closer during the Tigers, hot run that earned them a playoff spot. So I'm not sure, just based on what I've seen in the playoffs. Holton is just my preferred target. He seems to be Hinch's most trusted reliever. We know he doesn't exclusively close. He's opened before. He's has the ability to go multiple innings. But he's a couple years running now where his whip has been elite. Doesn't really give you much in terms of strikeouts, but the whip is really good. Typically outperforms his expected ERA. And it's just, I think, leverage wise, just from what we've seen from the Tigers recently, he's where I'd lean. But I don't know if Detroit is done adding to their pen. I think this would be a perfect landing spot for David Robertson, who I think could just step in and close for them, similar to what Foley did last year. I do know they just added Tommy Kahnle. John Heyman announced a little bit ago, right before we went live, so he could factor in as well. But yeah, this is one where it's tough to project anyone for more than 15 saves right now, just as the roster currently stands.
So this next team, I think, is like, if I had to pick one team that I was going to bet was going to sign one of Kenley Jansen, Carlos Estevez, Kyle Finnegan, or David Robertson, it would be the Texas Rangers. Right now, Chris Martin has a $3 AAV as the default closer, according to the market there. They also have Mark Church, who I think is a pretty interesting reliever long-term for them, but just seems like an obvious team that's going to sign one of these free agents.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't see Martin being their closer all year. I mean, as good as he is, he's been as one of the best walk rates in the league for several years running now. But 38 years old, it hasn't really closed a ton in the past, only 14 career saves. So I'm not sure that the Rangers would turn to him for that role. So yeah, I would expect them to sign someone.
And then the Marlins, Calvin Foucher is the only guy who's gone in a auction so far from this pen. I think he only went in one of the 5 auctions for $1. So the market is avoiding this bullpen, at least in the auction market. Tinoco, I think Jesus Tinoco has been going 80, 90 picks later than Foucher in recent draft champions. I actually prefer Tinoco over Foucher, but there's another arm in this pen that is your preferred Marlins arm to roster right now.
Yeah, I like Andrew Nardi. He made my my targets list in my article. It's just due to where he's being drafted. I think he's got just as good of a chance as Fauché and Tinoco to be the closer for the Marlins. I know Fauché's, his stuff numbers are off the charts, and he got 6 of the team's 7 saves right after the trade deadline. But durability is an issue for him. Should expect a high walk rate, high whip. So and Nardi, when he was healthy last year, struck out 70 in 49 2/3. I just feel like Nardi's been one of those guys that's gonna have a breakout fantasy season one of these years, and why not next year? So
also, if I'm remembering right with Nardi, I might see if I can look it up quick. But he was someone I had in a lot of DCs last year, and he got off to a brutal start. Yep. He had a 14 ERA in his first 6 1/3 innings last year, so kind of tanked his season stats early. But yeah, he finished with the Ks that you thought were going to be there. Like I said, I think Tinoco is a solid flyer too in that pen.
Yeah, agreed.
He's got way better command than Foucher. So the Rockies happen to have one of my favorite cheap save targets, and that's Seth Halverson. Although the market in auctions, at least, Tyler Kinley's been the only Rockies reliever to get bought. Are you with me on Halverson over Kinley?
I think so. I mean, he's just throws 100 miles per hour. He's got the secondaries that'll, the strikeout rate could be there. He's got the same ratio on walk risk that Kinley does. I think one thing I will say in Kinley's favor is after the All-Star break, he had a 3.75 ERA and a WHIP of 1. So much better than his season-long numbers would lead you to believe. I think he's kind of the favorite, but if I was choosing someone, I think it would be Halverson. No interest in Vodnik. Or anyone else really there. I don't think actually, just looking now, I don't think any Rockies reliever made my top 50. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I ranked Halverson highest of all relief pitching prospects on my update, inside the top 200. So yeah, I'm a fan. Now we got these last two teams here, Ryan. The White Sox, the Nationals. Oh man, I don't know. Where do you want to go with these two teams? Is there anyone you'd recommend drafting right now in either bullpen?
Yeah, not really. It's tough. I mean, but the White Sox are just so bad, and the way the Nationals bullpen shakes out right now, it's not really exciting. For the White Sox, I think Prelander Berroa is the one I'd be interested in the most. I know they just signed James Karinchak to a minor league deal. He missed all of last season with a shoulder injury, but he has closing experience. He has shown that he's able to be dominant when he's throwing strikes, just from his time in Cleveland. So I have him projected for the most saves with 8. Not many saves projected overall for the team. I think only 35 for the entire team. So it's tough to really get excited about anyone. I know Berroa is somebody, who couldn't find the strike zone last year, but the strikeout rate is appealing and potentially could get a shot. I know he was kind of the return for Gregory Santos when the White Sox shipped him to Seattle. So I think there's potential for him, but it's not something I'd be, moving ahead of ADP to land him or anything.
Yeah, if I had to roster one reliever on the White Sox and Nationals, it would be Prelander Berroa with the White Sox. I sort of think the Nationals signed another one of these free agents. Weird. Here's how bad I think the Nationals pen is right now. I'd be looking at maybe Zach Breisky or Evan Reifert, the Rule 5 pick. I don't know. I think those guys are in play too, just based on how good their stuff is relative to the rest of these guys. So, I think the Nationals probably signed one of these guys, but don't think I'd be trusting Jorge Lopez at the moment.
I wouldn't either.
Let's quickly wrap it up with some thoughts on those free agents. Kenley Jansen, $5 AAV, Carlos Estevez, and Kyle Finnegan, $2 AAV. David Robertson declined an option that I think would have paid him around $7 million. So you'd think he's going to get at least that on the open market. So do you have a favorite of these free agents? Any of them that you're avoiding because you think they might sign somewhere where they're not going to close?
Yeah, of that group, it would be Finnegan, just because I know he had 39 saves or whatever it was last year for the Nationals, had the highest team save share out of any closer in the league. But I just don't think the skills wise he's really matches up with these other free agent relievers. Jansen is 31 saves away from third place on the all-time list, so I think he's going to certainly pitch. I don't think he's going to really retire, at least this year. He's racked up 25 plus saves in each of the last 12 full seasons, so I'd be loading up on him right now while he's unsigned, because actually I think he's my most rostered closer right now, as a closer too. But strikeout walk rates are still solid. I think Velo dipped a bit last year, but he was still very effective. Rangers, D-backs, Brewers, Tigers, Reds, maybe. Possible landing spots for Kenley. I do like Estevez as well. I have some shares of him as well. I do have interest in Robertson just because he was so good last year. His strikeout rate was nails for the Rangers. Could have easily closed for them if Yates had gotten hurt. And yeah, I definitely see Robertson, getting at least 10 million wherever he lands. If Leclerc can get 10 million, Robertson can certainly get at least that. Mm-hmm. So only guy I really wouldn't be interested in is Finnegan. And again, it's all relative to where they're going ADP wise. Robertson is fairly cheap. Jansen and Estevez for someone who I would pretty confidently project for 20 plus saves for each of them. They're going in a range where, it's very cheap for that. So.
Yeah, I'm with you in terms of buying Jansen right now, buying Estevez right now. I've got Estevez. I don't think I've gotten Jansen yet just because Estevez is cheaper, but
yeah,
I'd be surprised. I'd be very surprised if Jansen or Estevez weren't projected to be someone's closer come opening day.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
Ryan, this has been fantastic. Why don't you let people know where they can follow your work and plug your article one more time?
Yeah, my work is here at RotoWire. I don't remember the free trial thing, so we'll have to give that plug again. But yeah, I write closer encounters frequently throughout the season. I'll have a couple more updates of my closer rankings that just went live on the site prior to the season starting, and a couple articles throughout the year. You can catch me on X at Ryan Roof. Happy to answer any questions there. That's where I'll promote any articles that go up at RotoWire. So.
Well, thanks so much, Ryan. Yeah, rotowire.com/pod. If you want to check out Ryan's closer rankings, he's got tiers, he's got percentage of saves. Really good stuff, Ryan. So check that out, rotowire.com. And that'll do it for us today. We'll be back with another episode next week.
Thanks a lot, James.